All right, it's 6:30, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mark, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the consent agenda, we have one addition to add. We received our workman's comp insurance bill today. It's due January 6th. It is in line with what it has been in the last couple of years. It's got a small increase. So it's Accident Fund is our workman's comp provider, and that bill is $56,277. So we'd like to add that to the consent agenda as part of the bills. It was 55 and some change last year as well.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including the meeting agenda and the November financial summary fund balance statement, minutes of the November 20th regular meeting, December 3rd special meeting, payment of monthly bills. Do I have a motion? Mark makes a motion. I have a second. Any seconds? Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Thanks. Okay, next we'll go do our spotlight for monthly board meeting.
School Boards Association's board report for the month of December. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the 2020 session of the Missouri General Assembly that convenes on January 8th. We're sure to see the return of some familiar issues during the session, including charter school expansion and voucher proposals. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says he expects to see legislation allowing charter schools in communities with a population of 30,000 or more.
This is public money, and school boards were elected to oversee public schools. This is public money going to private people to run a private, in essence, a private school. These are not, charter schools should be sponsored by the local elected school board. If they are in fact good, someone must be responsible to the voters and for the tax money that's being spent. Charter schools are not given to the voters. They have an independent board, and so therefore this is it's outside the control of the local elected people.
MSBA supports only those charter schools that are authorized by local boards of education and subject to the same accountability standards as other Missouri public schools, and supports measures that increase charter school accountability to state and local taxpayers. Currently, charter schools in Missouri exist only in St. Louis and Kansas City. Lawmakers are also expected to consider once again legislation to move school board elections from April to November. Reed says that would make school board elections in Missouri more partisan.
There is a push nationwide for moving school board elections to November. We believe that that causes them to become very political. Early elections, April elections are for local elected situations. November elections are partisan, and this will become much more partisan. People would not understand, and they would get lost. School board elections would get lost in the myriad of other things that are running. So it's a bad move. We need to make sure that local elections are held at a time when local decisions are made.
Reed says he expects a strong effort to fully fund the foundation formula once again for the next fiscal year, but he says significant increases in transportation funding will be more difficult to achieve. MSBA continues to support increases in funding for both the foundation formula and student transportation costs. We'll be keeping you informed on developments during the legislative session through our weekly Legislative Voice newsletter, critical issue alerts, and immediate updates through Twitter. Information on legislative issues also can be found on MSBA's Action Center website. Our annual Legislative Forum and Public Schools Day at the Capitol is set for February 10th in Jefferson City. You can register for that event through the MSBA website. Well, last month we told you about Governor Parsons' executive order directing several state agencies to develop a statewide campaign to warn young people in Missouri about the dangers of vaping. That campaign is now underway and features this public service announcement.
Let's clear the air.
Vaping includes nicotine. Nicotine is addicting.
Teens who vape are 4 times more likely to end up smoking.
90% of smokers started as a teen.
Let's clear the air. Vaping is not safe for us.
The social media portion of the Clear the Air campaign is now available for your school district's use through the Department of Health and Senior Services website. A separate website also has been created to help young people learn more about the dangers of vaping. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Thank you. Next, we'll do the board spotlight.
So a couple different things. So we didn't have school Monday or Tuesday, so my communication with these people was hampered, but so we're going to do it in January. But so we had 38 all-state band, all conference, all district, all state, and band for band and choir. 38 kids received some type of recognition. So that is wonderful. So I've talked to Mrs. Sacco. We're going to bring those kids in because they're actually playing tonight. So it would have been difficult to get them. And then obviously our athletics this fall, we're very successful athletically as well. And I've uploaded both of these documents into the folder, but all of the kids that were all state, all conference, all district in football, volleyball, and softball. We're going to bring those kids in January as well. Coach Swafford was the 2A Coach of the Year for the state of Missouri. We had 3 kids named All-State on our football team, obviously played for the state championship and did an excellent job. But softball team won districts, went on. So we're going to recognize all those kids in January just because with school being out this week, it was just difficult to coordinate all of that. We're going to want to commend them and their coaches for all of their hard work.
Next, we'll do the principal and director reports. And we'll start with elementary principal, Dr. Hall.
So yesterday we had an assembly at the elementary. There was a surprise for Coach Ann Leonard. She'd been nominated and received the Golden Apple Award from Ozarks Fox. That's out of the entire viewing area. Somebody had nominated her and she won. So we surprised her. She received a $250 gift card, a plaque. We also brought in some special guests. Her mom was able to come, her husband came. Her boys originally were scheduled to come, but then some weather ended up moving ball games, so they weren't able to make it. But obviously, Coach Leonard has dedicated over 30 years to this district, and we were very pleasantly surprised to be able to recognize that.
And she was surprised.
She was surprised. That was good. It was good.
Thank you. Middle school principal, Mrs. Nelson.
Just a couple of things that our groups have been doing in the middle school. National Junior Honor Society have been collecting wrapping paper to wrap gifts for the angel tree. They also sponsored a giveaway for a turkey, and then the student went home and talked to his family, and they donated it back to a family in need, so we're very proud of him. We also have student council who did a ugly sweater Christmas dance last week. They took the money today, and we had 8 student council members that went to Walmart. They were going to purchase food for baskets. They actually found out about a couple of families who needed help with Christmas, and so they went shopping for them today. So we're very proud of our students.
Thank you. High school principal, Dr. Nash.
Winding down first semester, we had finals today, and we'll also have those tomorrow. Very proud of our students for all of the activities that they've been doing this month, preparing for Christmas, all the Christmas concerts, performances at the parade, at the nursing home, Friday Night Frolic, all of the pageants, Christmas concerts and everything, but they do a lot for our community, and they try to get out there, and just proud of them for that.
That was cool what your student council did today, giving back some of the proceeds at the concession stand by giving cookies and hot chocolate to kids during lunch. That was
Yes.
good. That was cool.
Yes.
Thank you. Special Services Director, Mrs. Swafford.
I just want to thank the MOC and the health department. They held a Narcan training. Our nurses were able to attend, Officer Reed and Ms. Bergdahl, on the 2nd of December, and it was very informative. A lot of community members there, and it was, we appreciate them doing that for us.
Thank you. Maintenance Director, Mr. Valentine.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Dr. Dodd.
Okay, so MSBA report mentioned fully funding the formula, and we've talked about this a little bit. The call on to fully fund the formula next year is right at $11 million. We don't believe that will be difficult because usually it's 65 to 75 million to fully fund the formula. So just for the formula is about 11 million. On the transportation side, trying to do that over a period of years, because the call on the formula next year will not be much more than the 11 million. So DESE is asking right now $55 to $60 million is the number to start to try to fund transportation to the funding that it's supposed to be at. So that's the concern that everybody has. So I'll get to that in just a second. Couple different things. There's some legislation. There's been a lot of legislation pre-filed, but there's another piece of legislation, as there is every year, but it's a little more aggressive this year, an attack on the teacher retirement system. I'm trying to, it is one of the most lucrative retirement systems in the nation, and some legislators would like to get their hands on it, I guess. They'd like to change the way it works. So obviously we fight that every year. Retired teachers are a big advocate for the retirement system, obviously, because they're retired and are benefiting from that. But I've been asked to serve with 8 other superintendents in Southwest Missouri to speak to retired teachers, to speak to current teachers across Southwest Missouri, just to help them understand what that legislation could do to them. So I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to help where I can. Also, I'm slated to become the president of the Kansas-Missouri Superintendents Consortium. We've talked about that. It's a group of 50 superintendents from Missouri and 50 from Kansas that meet twice a year. We do some federal legislative advocacy. We meet in Kansas City, meet with our U.S. and senators and reps and commissioners of education from both states. So I will be the president of that next year. I don't think that's going to take much more time, but it will take a little bit of my personal time to coordinate that group. It's been a really good group. Financially, I show you this every month. The state adequacy target, which is line 3, it's creeping up. Remember, it's slated to be 6375. You can see how it's moved since July. So we're creeping up to, we're at 6354. So that is good. We will make a decision. In the last several years, we have estimated ADA. Have not estimated that at this point. We'll wait till January to decide if it is beneficial to the district to estimate. So our ADA has been running since summer school rolled into our ADA in September, so you can see what that did. So we are ahead of budget at this point. This is where we like to be. I say it every month, but I always budget revenues low and expenditures high. But I know that 367 is in red. That's just for me, but we are 367 ahead of budget in revenue. But if you remember, we passed a $460,000 deficit budget, which we have done the last several years. So everything is coming in line. So I'm comfortable where we are financially this time. So that is all I have, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Ball.
I'm going to share some more information. I've got some reports that usually, some things I touch on. So I'll try to keep from repeating myself multiple times. We'll talk about federal programs and A+ program reviews here in just a minute. We do have Mrs. Swadish here with us this evening. You heard me reference some of the things she's been able to do in her role this year. Started off, working very closely with new teachers, but really focusing on instruction and intervention strategies with starting with new teachers, and then really it's kind of grown from there. But I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she's been able to do this year in that role.
Sure. So the primary focus of the position that I'm in is I work with helping teachers and students be more successful in the classroom. And we have 17 new staff members to our district. I do classroom sweeps. Are you going to pull up on it? So I don't get out of order.
I'm struggling on everything. So.
Okay, so when we started the year, I sent out a menu to the teachers of services that I could offer. And those services can be anything from co-teaching to team teaching. I did some stuff with prevention vaping. The principals, middle school, we had visited Officer Reed and I, and then we worked with the high school students, and we went in and taught some prevention vaping for grades 5 through 8. And just so teachers have an opportunity that if they need some help, I'm available. My days are a lot of fun. Sometimes I'm in the kindergarten and I'm working there, and then I head to high school and I'm helping out in the classrooms. I've co-taught with all of every first-year teacher in the district. We've done a lesson together. And then I always check on our 17 staff members every month just to make sure how things are going. We want to retain teachers. That's a huge thing for us. And not only do we want to retain them, but we want them to enjoy working here. And I have a Google form. If they need help, they can just submit the form. It comes directly to me, and I can figure out what kind of support they need and then meet with them. I also attend the teacher support meetings in the buildings. So if teachers bring students that are needing extra support, we can discuss those students as a whole group or a whole team and come up with some interventions to help those kids be successful. I facilitate the data meetings in grades K through 12. And that's just pretty much what do we want kids to know? What do we do if kids are learning? What do we do to provide enrichment for kids? We want our kids here to have the same opportunity educationally as kids across the state of Missouri. And this position helps with that. I created a huge online resource. I don't know, I think it's like 10 pages. It's something that teachers can go to if they're needing just an instructional strategy that they might want to try with kids. It just gives them an opportunity to have it right there at their hands. And then on the side, I work with the basketball, football teams, and volleyball teams. I meet after school with them, and we talk about mindset coaching. And so that's been a lot of fun, of having a growth mindset, that if you set a goal and that you can attain it and achieve it, and that we're not just who we are right now, but we can continue to grow mentally, physically, and athletically. So that kind of summarizes the job.
It's not to put a feather in her cap, but first year she did it with the football team, they did reach the state championship.
I know.
I don't know if there's any correlation to that.
And we got a shout out from John Gordon, which is huge. So that was exciting. We used actually his instructional, a book called The Training Camp. And currently we're doing that with all of our sports teams. And that's been a lot of fun for our kids because they can set goals and then actually achieve those goals. But yes, we're looking for that in volleyball. Or volleyball had a good season too, but boys and girls basketball. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get away from this, So Paige isn't be able to be with us tonight because she is dancing, but this is the last meeting for our student board members, so I will find her tomorrow. So I had several questions for her on the spot, but she had more important things to do than be with us, which I would agree.
Only other thing I want to be sure to mention right now, I talked a little bit last month, our vocational programs, we're doing a comprehensive needs assessment locally. We've done that on a smaller scale for years, some new requirements for that, but that's coming up. I'll mention this again next month, but our February 3rd is a PD day for us here at school. At noon, we're going to try to host a luncheon. You are all invited because we'll share a ton of information. We're just required to go to. But some of that is I've got that organized. Some really interesting information to me on jobs specific to our area in Southwest Missouri, jobs overall in the state of Missouri, projections on those jobs. I mean, it breaks down in our part of the state what that data has been historically over the last few years and projecting what that job market's going to look like 10 years down the road. I mean, just some interesting information, and we're looking on feedback for, just as we look at those vocational programs and that training that we're offering. But I will mention that again. But really, it started off seeming pretty overwhelming, but as we got that organized, looking forward to working through that information and seeing the feedback that we can get. All I've got.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start our discussion and action items, and we'll start with the flex plan, section 125 reserve.
So this is a plan that is offered to all of our employees as a pre-tax flexible spending plan. They can pre-tax healthcare benefits, they can pre-tax medical spending accounts, child care. It allows those obviously to come out prior to taxes being assessed on their wages, and so it saves the employees money. So this requires an annual adoption and starts January 1st. So it has been uploaded for your review, and I just need a motion to vote.
Someone make a motion? Kenny makes a motion, I have a second. Any seconds, any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Next is the Belcher Scholarship.
So we had a lot of students apply for the Belcher Scholarship, which I was really excited about. We've had years when we've not had this many. We did, you all have chosen that young person, that high school student. You would know him as number 59. That is a scholarship that is given locally to our student, and then they go on to a regional and state level competition through MSBA. So the student who selected by a vote of 4-3, we had 2 preliminary voting, we had 2 that had the same number of votes, but number 59 is Caden Myers. So he received the most votes. So anyway, there was a question earlier about.
Yes. My understanding is that the scholarship itself is $250.
Locally, correct.
Locally. I would like to make a motion that we increase the amount of the Belcher Scholarship.
Okay. Would you like to increase that to?
$500.
Okay. So we need a motion to increase it to $500 and to award it to Caden Myers.
I'll second. Nina makes the motion.
That we award $500 and then we give it to Caden Myers.
Okay. Michael seconds. Any discussion?
I would only like to point out, as I read through all those applicants, I know you all did too, they were impressive. It was impressive to see the students, the essays they wrote, and all their accomplishments or awards that were on that application. It was a tough choice for me.
Oh, there she is. Just so you know, the board members don't know who the students are. Their names are taken off, and they're just issued a number. So.
All those in favor? That carries 7-0.
All right. We'll revert back.
Yep.
Just so you got here. So as I said earlier, it is Paige's last meeting And I know what these are, but I don't think everybody knows. Paige, what's your plan for next year?
Next year?
Yep.
Well,
Where do you want to go to college?
we're not, okay.
How about
I'm thinking UMKC,
for?
pharmacy.
You want to be, so you have to go, my understanding is you have to go for 2 years and then you get into pharmacy school, is that correct?
Yes.
So what makes you want to be a pharmacist?
There are a lot of opportunities, and it won't be extremely difficult to get a job.
That's good. We would like to thank you, we're going to have a picture taken, but we'd like to thank you on behalf of the Board of Education for your service. I know it's time that comes out of your personal time. You know, your friends are over there cheering and dancing, and you had to come over here and miss the ball game. We just appreciate your service to the board and your perspective. Mr. Treadway, you want to be in the picture? Thank you. You go. Yep. Go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the extracurricular and co-curricular activities review.
Dr. Nash is going to present both of these. Coach Sawyer is doing a supervision, I believe, in Seymour tonight.
That's correct. So for the athletic report, Coach Sawyer submitted a list of the sports, the total number of players in each area, the records that they had for this year, and also the coaches' names. Most of these athletic teams had winning seasons. So, you know, that's a pretty great accomplishment and looks good for our district. But I'd also like to, again, another shout out for the football team, SCA champs, district champs, quarterfinalists, state runner-up. Also, high school softball were district champs. So we appreciate all the hard work that our coaches and our students do for our school and for our students. The other report that you got was the activities report. We have 13 clubs in the high school, and we have certain criteria that we have for each club, and this was set many years ago. So what they have to do is they have to have a community service activity, a minimum of 1 per year, a school service activity, minimum of 1 per year, fun club activity, minimum of 1 per quarter, and responsibilities, minimum of 4 per year. So you have what each of those clubs have done. Now some of these clubs this year have new sponsors, and so they have different activities, and some of those have not been done yet, but they put stars by those that have not been done yet, but they are planning on doing those. But they put a lot of work and a lot of effort in that, and you can also see by this that a lot of times they exceed that minimum. So we're very proud of our students and our staff members. Any questions? Okay. I'm going to head out to ballgame duty, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Motion and vote to approve the extracurricular and co-curricular activities review. Mark makes the motion. Do I have a second? Michael seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Next, we'll have the federal program review.
All right. I'm going to go through some of the different components of this report that you've got. A lot of times you hear me talk about federal programs. It's basically funding we get. It comes from census data. I'm free to introduce lots of that type of information. A lot of processes, a lot of steps in place that go with that funding and your documentation and your planning. As you kind of go through that first section, basically we have to ensure that we have a plan in place. You see that ELL, ESOL, those are students that we have that English is not the primary language. So we have to have a plan in place for how we're going to educate students. Well, that's the situation. Migrant students, homeless students, again, really just ensure we've got safeguards in place to help those students be successful. A lot of the work goes in at the building level, their building principals, counselors, and obviously the teachers that they have. last year, we had to go through a pretty significant review. There were some changes that came down federally, just in enrollment paperwork, just to make sure that we're catching students that are in those situations. Just try to keep them from slipping through the cracks. Just a lot of that was enrollment paperwork, and whenever we begin that process, making sure we are aware of those situations as soon as we can. As soon as we can, again, so we can take those steps to help them be successful. You look down that next part, you know, a lot of that we don't qualify for. There are different funds that you see there, Title I-A, Title I-B. So a lot of that's marked not applicable for us. But for each one of those, you'll hear me talk in the spring. I'll send out surveys. We hold meetings. We have to develop a plan and get feedback on each one of those different fund sources that we receive. That happens every single year. We turn that in, it's reviewed federally, and we have a person that we work with at the state level. Questions on any of that information? Really, what I get to, you see there's a ton of data that we review as a part of that, and I'll reference it again. I'm talking about A+. You see a lot of data that we look at. You know, are our students being successful on our achievement tests? Are our graduates successful when they leave our district? So there's a lot of information there that's applicable to all of these different programs. But the things I want to look at there, as we've got feedback, some things that are repeated strengths every year for federal programming. There's some of that funding. We're able to reduce class size. We have an additional teacher at the elementary level that otherwise we would not be able to provide, keep those class sizes smaller. A lot of positive feedback on our reading interventions. Retired teachers we have come back in, a lot of that is through through federal funding, we're able to do that. You know, you hear us talk about the Barton program, just some of the interventions that we have in place to help students get to read it, so at the reading and grade level. Tutoring is always mentioned. Things that always come up as concerns, the funding has just gradually decreased, not significantly the last few years since I've been involved, but it changes a little bit. So that's a concern, not necessarily that it's happening, but if that were to happen, it would impact some of the programs we're able to offer. Always look for ways for additional training, teachers and students, additional technology and training on those devices, whatever we have access to. Something that I heard this year that, good question. Reading interventions in place, a lot of focus on that, because it applies to every content area. But I had somebody ask me face-to-face in one of our meetings that we held, and got this feedback on multiple survey responses. I was asking about some math interventions. You know what it is when you're prioritizing that. I mean, obviously the reading applies in everything they do, but when we talk about science and STEM and math, it's something we definitely need to take a look at to see if there are some things we can put in place to help our students be more successful there. Those are the comments that we got, and things that we wanted to focus on. Any questions on federal programs?
Yeah, there's been a push at the government, at the U.S. government level, to move some of those title funds to not use them the way they are, move them to the inner city high poverty areas, or move some of that money to charter schools. And that's part of that work we do with that Kansas Missouri Superintendent's Forum, but it's been blocked by rural senators and representatives, so we think we're safe in that area, but that would be a significant impact to us. We use part of that money for significant salaries for some of our elementary teachers.
Thank you. I need a motion and vote to approve the federal program review.
I'll make a motion.
Kenny makes the motion. I have a second. Dan seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carry 7-0. A+ program review.
Similar information on part of this as you look at some of the data that we reviewed. We look to see what kind of impact we're going to have on our students with the A+ program. A+ scholarship. A lot of times when I talk about the A+ program, locally what we see is the tutoring. And I tell this to our high school students every year, even if there weren't scholarship money available, that tutoring program would be a positive thing for our kids, our homeboards and our headboards. It's a cool experience. We have high school kids, different hours throughout the day that go mostly to the elementary, some go to the middle school, and they're in those classrooms working with students. It impacts our younger kids. It certainly impacts our older kids as well. I repeat that every year when I'm sharing information about A+ with them. Again, even if there weren't scholarship money, that part of the experience would be beneficial. But the funding, Missouri Department of Higher Education sponsors a scholarship. In theory, every senior we have graduate could qualify for that scholarship. Now, what you have are participating vocational centers and two-year schools, primarily community colleges that accept that fully. They establish criteria with relation to GPA, attendance, there's an assessment criteria, the tutoring hours that we talked about, and then a citizenship component. The thing that probably I've focused on the most this year is just looking for better ways to communicate that information so that everybody's aware of it. You know, we meet, and for years, freshman orientation, we hand that information out. Since I've been here, I meet every year with all the grade level teams, grade levels at different times. Push that out through email to parents. Just different ways to try to get that information in their hands. Every year I'll have seniors, because I sit down with my seniors individually and we go through, because I'll have some that they're there. They can qualify for the scholarship. They just need to go ahead and do the tutoring, or they may need to take the ACT again. And I walk through that with them. You know, it's a unique program. It's good for up to 4 years from the date of graduation. You know, so I could have a student that went somewhere that doesn't accept A+, and then something changes, and they transfer somewhere else, and it's still available to them. Something that was a focus for me was getting that information out, making sure folks were fully aware of what the program was, what the criteria was to qualify. Last year, when I sent those surveys out, just 46% of my adult non-teacher respondents felt like they were fully aware of what those requirements are. This year, that number was up around 70%. So that, you know, I feel good about that. Something I did this year that's different. I told you I met with my students. I told them face to face. Some of them are like me. If you tell me, I may not remember. I sent that out in email to every high school student. I sent it to my seniors individually, and to all my freshmen through juniors. And I'm just going to make that something I'm going to try to do quarterly. Just here's the information. Sometimes it updates parts of that as far as what the criteria is, but it's been pretty consistent through the years. But that's, for me, I know that's the focus, making sure they've got that information and they know what, just some possibilities that for some students really impact, you know, what they might want to do. That's the feedback we get from students when I survey them. Does this have it? Would an A+ scholarship impact what you choose to do after high school? 83% of them feel strongly that it would. So that for me,
if they go to a four-year university that doesn't honor A+, yes. Many of those four-year universities have started giving a scholarship. If you were an A+ student and you qualified, it's worth $1,000, $1,500 to them.
That's all. More and more four-year schools that don't fully accept that are offering some kind of incentive to compete for those students.
Yes. They were losing.
Why do they not accept?
Because it's only for a two-year or technical school. Okay. That's the way the A+ law is written.
I see.
So they can't.
So they can't. So
yes.
four-year colleges or universities, yes. Then a lot of them have started giving scholarships in lieu of that.
Because they were losing out on those kids that, well, they were going to go, and which makes sense, they were going to go to OTC or Lynn Tech for 2 years because 12 hours was covered.
Right.
So it made sense economically for them to do that. So those four-year universities are saying, okay, we understand that, so we're going to give you this much money.
Something that's different just to try to open up schedules for students. I offered this last summer during summer school. We're going to continue to try to promote that. I had a handful of students take advantage of that. They can come in summer school and do their tutoring hours, and what that would do is open up another hour during the school day that they could take another class. Just thinking of ways to try to open that up to as many of our students as we can. We don't want that to be a choice they have to make. Hey, I can take this dual credit class, or I can get my A+ scholarship. We try to figure out ways to make that work for them.
I would
So
guess
we'll
that
limit
number.
time.
I would guess that number will grow too in summer school. This last year was the first year, right?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I would think that we would have some more take advantage of that. You know, if a student's willing to put in that work and that time, we'll figure out a way to try to make that work more.
What do you think about the financing on the dual credits?
On the dual credit, Dr. Dial may be able to answer some of this better. So he's asking about the financing on dual credit. We saw the information from Missouri State, OTC.
Yeah, so they are offering now, if a kid is a free and reduced lunch student, they're starting to offer free dual credit to them. So we are currently with Drury. We are looking at making a shift because that just came out mid-year, but that we offer, they are offering it through the lunch program as well, which we offer lunch. If you are a free and reduced lunch student, you can get free dual credit through Missouri State, OTC. And there are a few other universities that are starting to do that. So Dr. Nash and I have had that discussion about, hey, we need to look at that because it's a benefit to our kids. Before it was about the same price, and Drury was here in town. It was pretty easy to work with. But you know, if Missouri State's going to start offering free tuition, that's just economical value for our parents and kids.
The only drawback at this point, just with Drury being here in town, we have more offerings available. So we're running into some of that. You know, in my mind, hey, if you can take this one for free, great. Now we can still offer this.
Yeah. Missouri State doesn't offer as many dual credits as Drury at this point. But we're working
with our setup.
Yeah, with our setup.
Just proximity.
Okay. Need a motion and vote to approve the A+ program review. Randy makes a motion. Do I have a second? Michael seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Next is school bus cameras.
So just want to give the board an update. The cameras did come in Tuesday or Wednesday. So we have those locked up. The second week in January, they will be installed. District owns 8 buses. They'll be installed on this, and we already had put a camera system from 247 Security, who we on a bus just to make sure that it was good last spring, and it worked well. So we already have one, so we'll put them on the other 7 district-owned buses and 4 route buses from those contractors that have agreed to put them on their buses. That'll be done the second week in January at this point. So I don't have an exact date or time, but we will. We're working on that, and that'll be done through JLR Mobile Surveillance out of Nixa. That's who contracts with 247 Security, the people that we bought it from, and they fully guarantee their installation. So that's the update I have.
I would like to thank those drivers that agreed to put those on there for the safety of the students. And me personally, I'm hopeful that we can come to an agreement with the rest of the drivers to have the rest of those installed soon.
Okay. That concludes our agenda items for tonight's meeting. Our next regular board meeting will be held January 16th, 2020 at 6:30 in this room. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Hold on. Make sure it's the right thing. I'm going to put it on. Second. I think I'm wrong.
No, it's the 16th.
Yes, the 16th. It is the 16th. That's right.
It's the 17th on here.
I know. I put the wrong date on here.
No, I'm looking at it.
We fixed his. Sorry.
I have it on special.
Sorry.
Need a motion. Kenny makes a motion. I have a second. Randy seconds. All those in favor? Carries 7-0.
I tacked the wrong in the beginning and DJ fixed it. Just like most things, right?
Auto credit.
Oh, well, that's nice. It's good. Send me a text email, maybe. Get to hanging on his